Here we are to continue our discussion of JavaScript, and so far we've built the breakout game, we've linted the code to professional standards, we have rewritten the code a couple times actually. We rewrote it once and then we rewrote it again in object-oriented form. We made classes, we extended those classes. I'd like to actually come back to that extending idea because that's actually a big topic with a lot of stuff to unpack. But right now, what I'd like to talk about today is bundling your code. So what is bundling? Okay, if you're building apps, professional level apps, you need to make that code compatible across, everybody's computer. So you're writing code and it doesn't just have to run on your computer. You put it on the internet and it has to run on everybody's computer. And not only run on their computer, it has to run in everybody's different versions of different browsers. So we got to run on Chrome, Safari, Firefox, Opera, Internet Explorer, Edge, all the different browsers, and all the different versions of those browsers and older versions of those browsers, okay? So bundling will rewrite our code into a version of JavaScript that's compatible with every browser and all the older browsers, okay? Currently, the code that we've written is actually compatible only with the newest, most updated browsers, okay? Second, what it's going to do is it's going to take separate files. We've broken the code into all these different files, and what's going to happen is we're going to combine them into a single file, okay, a single bundle, okay? That's where the name comes from. Why is that important? Well, when you load a web page, every file that web page links to creates another stream, and that stream adds to the overhead of loading your page. So every stream comes with a bunch of overhead, like to create that stream and make a connection to some other server and get a resource from somewhere else. If we try to link to too many files, then that slows down the loading process. So if we can bundle a bunch of separate JavaScript files into one single file, that will speed up the loading process and make our pages load more efficiently, okay? Also, another piece of the bundling is called minification and uglification. So if we minify our code, when I've written the code here, I've included a lot of line returns and spaces and these comments, and all of this stuff would have to be loaded by a client. But actually, these comments and all the formatting here is only useful to me as a developer, right? So anybody else doesn't need all the spaces and line returns, and the code could be particularly ugly and it wouldn't bother anybody, okay? Because they would never see it, okay? So what we want to do is and also by taking all that stuff out, our files will get smaller. So that will speed up the loading process also, okay? So that's minifying. Uglifying is the idea of taking all of the identifiers. These are the names that we've used to name the variables and functions and parameters and things like that inside our code and replacing them with a single letter. So if I reduce sprite to a single letter like A, that would work just fine. And it would save me, 5 characters, right? So that would make our files a little bit smaller. Also, it makes it harder for people to reverse engineer our code, right? Which actually is kind of not a big deal really, but it might be nice to kind of obscure our code a little bit so people aren't just willy-nilly taking bits and pieces from it, okay? So how does the bundling work? Well, we're going to set up a process that will bundle our code. And what this means is we're going to have to rearrange our working directory here so that we have a directory that's our distribution code and a directory that's our source code. So the source code is what we work on as developers, right? So when we're doing our work, we're working in the source directory. And when we publish our code for the world to use, right, when we give it out to the world and we publish it, we put that in our distribution directory, okay? So let's get started with that. I'm going to make a new directory here, and I'm just going to call it src. This is actually kind of a common practice. And I'm going to move all of my JS files, not the index.html, but I'm going to get all of the JS files here and put them into the source directory. And then it's going to say, hey, you want to move all these? Yeah, I'm going to say, yeah, let's move all those guys, right? And then I'm going to take the main file and put it in here too, okay? And the index.html, I'm going to actually put that somewhere else because this is kind of our source, this is like part of our distribution, right? And actually this sprite file's got to go in here too. I missed one. So let's make one more folder, and I'll call it dist for distribution, okay? And I'm going to take the index.html file and put it in here, okay? And now we need to make another file, okay? And this file is going to be a configuration file for a tool called webpack, and we're going to use webpack to do the bundling process. So we'll have to install webpack in a minute, but while I'm here, I might as well just get started making the webpack config file. So I'm going to make a brand new file. This one should go in the root directory, so out here with package.json and these other files, right? So I'll make a new file and I'll save it, and I'm going to call it webpack.config.js. Oops, let me make sure it doesn't go in the distribution folder, right? Okay, so there's my webpack config. Okay, so for the webpack config, we're going to add some code to this that tells webpack how to do its job, okay? So what we want to do is we want to say, const path is require, and then we want to get path, and then we want to create a new object. So we got to do like module exports equals, and then we're going to make an object here that we export. Let me actually set the spacing here to 2 spaces. And the export or the config file here is going to say it's going to say where we start with our code, like what is the entry point, right? And usually we start with index.js, right? But we have to also say like where that index.js is. So I'm going to say it's in the source directory, right? And actually I didn't use index.js, I used main.js. So actually we could change this to main, right? So I'll make that main.js. But if your main starting point for your code is index.js, then you could use that. Or if you have a different name, you can use that one. But you'll see here like my main.js right here, it makes a new instance of the game class, and then this is where everything starts, right? And then this game class imports or gets all these other files, right, and uses them, right? So if I look at game, it's going to make instances of ball and sprite and bricks, right? Okay, so that's our entry point. What else do we need? Oh yeah, we need output, and this is where after we process this file, we compact it, we minify it, we uglify it, we make it compatible with all the different browsers. We're going to have a new file, and we're going to put that in the distribution folder, okay? So what we want to do is we want to set this up with the file name, and I'm going to call it, it's pretty typical that we call it bundle.js, but you could call this index.js or something else. I'm going to call it bundle.js just so we know that this is the bundle, right? And then we're going to give it a path. And this code right here for Webpack runs in the Node environment. So we're doing a couple things that are very specific to Node, like this require from and module exports, right? And this next bit too, we're going to say path resolve, and what do we got to do here? We got to do dir name or directory name. This kind of just resolves to the current path here to this folder so we know where we're at, right? And then I'm going to say dist because this is the folder where I want, and I need a couple commas and semicolons there to get rid of all those linter warnings, right? Okay, so then I'll say path is going to be, path.resolve, and then I'll get the directory name that we're currently in, and then we'll say, hey, let's go to the dist directory, and that's the directory I made up here, okay? Okay, great. So this doesn't do anything by itself, unless we have webpack. So let's go get webpack now. So I'll need to get the terminal, and I'll need to navigate to my breakout folder. So I'll put, I just typed, I'll even do this over again, right? I put, I'm in the terminal, and I need to just navigate this to my folder with my code here. So I'll just put cd space, and then this is the folder I'm working in on the desktop here. So I'll just drag that in here, and it'll give me a path to that folder. So now I'm in the breakout folder, right? And what I want to do is I want to install, let me see, what do I want to install again? It's, oh yeah. So we want to do npm install save dev, and then we want to get webpack, and I think it's webpack CLI. Yeah, right? So I have this written down somewhere else. I'm trying to remember all the names, right? So what do we got? We got npm install save dev, or -- save dev webpack, and the webpack CLI. So I'll hit return, and then this will take a moment. So we'll wait for this to install. And then what we're going to do is we're going to run webpack. What is this thing? I don't know why. Right in the middle, you're trying to make a video, and then all of a sudden the computer wants to install stuff. 13 minutes. Is it going to take that long? Okay, well, maybe I can cut that out if it's going to take this long. Let's see here. Oh, yeah. Well, while that's installing, let's do one more thing. So we've got our module exports in our webpack config, and we've described to webpack how to bundle our file and where to get the source and where to put the bundle. And then the other thing we're going to do is we're going to set up a couple scripts in our package JSON. So there's a couple scripts that we want to run, but instead of running them like by remembering what to put in the terminal, we'll add those to the scripts section here in our package JSON, and then we can run them from this script. Okay, so I'm going to add a new script here, and we'll call it develop. And the develop script is going to be used when you're working as a developer. So when you're the developer, you're going to use the develop script, and this will bundle your files in a way that's better for you as a developer. So it'll do two things. It will bundle the files constantly, so anytime you save a file from the source directory, it will automatically build the bundle again. And then when it does the bundling, it won't do the uglification or the minification. So that means that if you needed to look at the bundled code, you'd be able to read it. It would be human readable. And then the second script we're going to add is the build script. So the build script is what we do as our last step. So it just runs once, and when we run it, what happens is it just builds the script and minifies and uglifies our code and makes it small as possible, but it's not human readable. So when we're acting as a developer and we're working on our project and editing code, we do that under the develop script, and then it's constantly running. And then when we build as our last step, because we want to publish our completed app, we'll run the build script. So what are we going to do here? We need to do webpack -- mode is development. And then we want to do, I think we want to do watch. Yeah. So we'll do -- watch. So this watch flag is what tells Webpack to run in the background and constantly update every time we save files. So it's saying like, hey, watch these files for changes, and if they change, run the build script again. Okay. So this other one, we're going to run Webpack, and then we want to do -- mode is production. Okay. And oh, maybe that's not going to take. It's still running. I can't stand. These things are so frustrating. Anyway, so we'll let that run. Maybe it's almost done there. let's see, maybe this doesn't have anything to do with what I'm doing here. I don't know, right? But let's try our script out. So I'm going to go to my terminal here, and I'll clear it for a moment. And what we want to do is we want to call the develop script. So I'm going to run npm run develop. Okay, so this should be the script that we have here, right? So we're going to say npm run, and then develop is the name of one of the scripts in the scripts area, right? So we'll run this one. What am I missing there? I think I got everything. Oh, module not found. Oh, wait a minute. Main.js. This is source. Let's look at this, right? Oh, insufficient number of arguments or entry not found. So maybe my main.js is missing. But I have source here. What is my problem there? Let's see. Error. Entry module can't resolve source main.js. I think it should work there, because I think I have that. Let's see. Let's run it one more time. Yeah, let's check my spelling here. So let's check our webpack config. I got source. Let's see here. Oh, you know what? I think I have to put, I made a mistake here. Let's put // in front here. Right? I made a mistake there. Let's try it again. Oh, there we go. Everything's working. Okay, so again, user error, right, is usually the first place to look. So what happened here? I just ran this, and it says webpack is watching files. So it just did something, right? It compiled a bunch of files. It took like 74 milliseconds. The entry point was bundle.js, right? And then if I look in the distribution folder, now there's a bundle.js in here. And if I click on this, you can see there's a bunch of code, and it looks a little weird. It's not like our original code, okay? And what's happening in here is Webpack is rewriting our code to work on any browser. So it's recompiled it. Let's try another one just for fun. This actually, our code's going to need a little more work to make it work. So our game is not going to work yet. There's still a couple things we need to take care of. Notice the linter errors in here. You don't have to worry about that because the bundler will always rewrite the file to the distribution folder. So you should never have to edit bundle.js. Okay, so let's run one other script. I'm going to go back here, and I'll do, since the watch flag is running in the terminal right now, I'm going to quit with Control-C. And then I'm going to type npm run build. Like that was our other script, right? Let's take a look. So our other script is build here. So I'm going to run that. This time it runs one time, and it creates a bundle, right? So it overwrote that old bundle. And if I look at the new bundle, you can see it's minified. So this is what the code looks like when it's minified and uglified. Any variable names have been replaced with a single letter, right? I guess it didn't replace name or my canvas, but everything else is just a single letter, and that just makes it as small as possible. There's no comments. All the comments have been removed, all the spaces and line returns, okay? Okay, so what else do we need to do to get our code working? Let's go to the index file here, index.js in the distribution folder. And if I look at this, I'm importing all of these files, but they don't exist here anymore. And if you recall, I said, like, actually, we're going to compile all these files into a single bundle.js. So what we should do here is we should delete all of these. And instead of importing main, we're just going to import bundle.js. Okay? So that's the first step. The next thing we need to do is we're going to have to rearrange a little bit on how the files over here in the source directory work with each other. Okay, so let's look at main.js first. And this is my entry point. And in order for the way that our project is working now, it's working in a in a system of modules. And the concept of a module is a single file that's separate from all of the other files. Okay, so modules create scope in JavaScript, and Webpack is kind of setting the scope up for us behind the scenes. So once we've run this with Webpack, it's going to scope each of these files to their own module. So what that means is in order to share code across modules, you need to import it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say import game from /game. So if I'm going to use this game class and it exists in the game.js file, I need to import that module here. Okay, so there's two parts to this. In order to import something, you have to export it from the module. So here I'm going to import this item from game, but that means if I go into the game file, I need to export it. So what I want to do is I want to export the class game from this file. So I always do this at the bottom, so I'm going to go to the very bottom here, and I'm going to say export default game. Okay, so now I should be able to import game into main.js from game.js, okay, because I'm exporting it here. Okay, so then, you know, when I'm in game.js makes use of ball, sprite, brick, and game label, right? So that means that here, what I'll need to do is I'll need to say import, let's see what we have, the ball class from ball.js, right? You don't have to put the .js on the end of a module name. You just put the name of the file without the .js if it's a JS file. If it's some other kind of file, you have to put the extension on it. So I'll import ball. I'll say import paddle. Wait, I'm going to make it uppercase from paddle, right? And then I think I also imported bricks from /, and then you can see there's bricks right there. So I'm importing bricks, not the brick class, because I don't think this file actually uses the brick class, but it does use ball, sprite, bricks, and game label. So let's go get game label too. So we'll say import game label from game label, right? Okay, so that's looking pretty good. But now if you recall, in the other one, I had to export the files in order to be able to import them, right? What is this guy? Paddle's declared, but its value is never read. Wait, I swear I must be using paddle here somewhere. Oh, you know why? Because I used sprite to create the paddle. So actually I'm going to leave paddle out there, right? I just made my paddle out of a sprite, okay? So I can get rid of that. Can't resolve game label. Oh, because I misspelled it, right? So that's my problem there. There we go, right? So hopefully that's better, right? Okay, so great. So now I need to import stuff and export it. So let's look at the ball class. And the ball class uses the sprite class, so it better import it. So we'll import sprite, and then we'll export ball. So we'll say export default ball. And we'll go to brick. Brick also uses the sprite class, so we'll import sprite from the file sprite, and then we'll export brick. Export default brick. And I'm just going to do each file. I'm going to go down each one and think about it, right? So I got ball. It uses sprite, so we import it. And then I want to export the ball so another file can or another module can use it. I'll go to brick. I've imported sprite, and then I've exported the brick. I'll go to bricks. Bricks class uses the brick class, so we'll have to import that. I know that one's a little bit confusing. We want to be careful that we don't type bricks here, because bricks doesn't want to import itself, right? That would create a problem, right? And then when we export, we want to make sure that we're exporting bricks with an S, but not brick again, right? So let's get bricks and export it. And what is this error here? Unnecessary semicolon. Okay, good. We can get rid of that. What is this guy? Expected a line break. Why does it do that to me? So many linter errors. And then it probably wants each one of these like on its own line. That's so frustrating. Do those guys at Airbnb, do they really write code like this? I bet they do. You know, I totally bet they do. Wait, this is probably like that. Color, what? Oh, you know, it probably wants an ending or the trailing comma, right? You know, sometimes I like the code when it's all spread out, you know, but other times, like, if it takes up too much space, it makes it even harder to read. Anyway, so here we are in game. We're going to import these files here. I'm actually going to disable this this linter message there. And what is wrong with this one here? Oh, it doesn't like this line because it's too long. Well, shit. Pardon me. I'm just frustrated at that one. What do we got here? New game label. Oh yeah, you know, I must have left this here when I was testing, so I'm going to get rid of that. And let's see, what else do we have here? Oh, there's just probably some spaces, right? Let's just get rid of those. Get rid of these spaces. And sorry, I'm just fixing these linter errors there, right? So we'll get rid of all these guys. And oh yeah, and we exported game. So we already did this one. And then we'll go to game label. Game label extends sprite. So we'll import sprite from sprite, and then we'll export game label. Export default game label. Okay. And then we'll go to main, and main imports game, but it doesn't have anything to export, so that's fine. And then, though actually if you had other code that wanted the game object to work with, you could export that maybe. Maybe that's what this file exports. We actually don't have that situation here. So Sprite doesn't use any dependencies from outside, but it does export itself. So we'll say export default Sprite. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. I almost got these fixed. These two files have a couple linter errors. So I think that's pretty good. Let's bundle our code again. Now, if I had been running the develop mode, it would have bundled the code each time I saved one of these files. Let's go back to our develop mode. So I'm going to do npm run develop. It should bundle all of our code. You can see now with the import statements and the export statements, every time I bundle a file, like I bundle main, it sees that main uses ball.js, so it goes and it gets that, right? So we only really have to target the main file, the entry point, and then if the bundler sees any imports and exports, it goes out and gets those files and then includes those in the bundle. Okay, so let's run that, and then let's test our code. So I'm going to go to my index.html and run it in my browser and see if it's still working. Oh, I got an error. Let's see. So let's test that, right? Let's check it. So I'm going to go right click here and inspect. And oh yeah, I got two errors there. Let's read them, see what they say. What does it say here? Oh, reference can't find variable sprite in bundle.js. So let's figure out where that is. So somewhere I forgot to import sprite. Right, so one of my files is using sprite, but I forgot to import it. Let's go check. Oh yeah, I took out sprite here in game. So game actually uses sprite. So because because I thought it was using paddle, but it's not. So let's import sprite here. And then the bundler should have run again, right? So it rebuilt the thing here. Oh yeah, and then there's my game, and it's working again. Okay, so that's kind of, it was kind of a, oh wait, my paddle, the mouse move is not working, but the arrow keys are working. So I got to go figure out what that is. But anyway, so it's mostly working now. I hope that works for you guys. Give it a try, test it out. Post any comments or questions that you have, and you know, and then we'll kind of, maybe we'll do a little bit more with this later. But this pretty much takes the MDN original source code and updates it into modern, like professional level JavaScript. And I think that by going through all this, you're seeing like how like a professional developer or like a business would run this JavaScript and how they would treat the JavaScript. And you could take it even further, right? But I think we've come a long way from the original source code, okay? So anyway, thanks for watching. And if you stuck through all these videos, that's really awesome. Thank you. And if you have any questions, please post them in the comments.